Tonight on Bridge City News, bike thefts continue in our city. We talk to a local resident who is fed up. Residents join forces to protest Lethbridge's safe consumption and injection site. And we hear from the federal Conservative leader Andrew Scheer at the Calgary Stampede, who says his party is not taking Alberta for granted this federal election.
Your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Hal Roberts.
Good evening. Thanks so much for joining us. The Lethbridge Chief of Police, Rob Davis, is resigning to take on a new position as Police Chief in Brantford, Ontario. Davis has served as Police Chief in Lethbridge since January 5th of 2015.
We certainly will miss his innovation, and we hope that as the Police Commission recruits another chief, that we get someone who's equally dedicated and equally creative.
The Watch program, the Community Peace Officer program, the SMART squad, there's a number of things that he's brought forward, and I think there's more things coming as well that are part of negotiations that I can't go into, that certainly he will have a strong legacy in his 4.5 years here.
Davis's last day on the job will be September the 30th. The Lethbridge Police Commission will now begin the process to replace him. Bike riding season has returned, and along with that, criminals looking for a free ride. Hundreds are stolen every year, and even though owners take prevention seriously by using a lock, or in some cases even leaving them in the garage, it doesn't appear to stop thieves.
We have, it's like a bike rack that we bought specifically to keep our kids' bikes locked up, and we have 3 kids, so 3 kids, 2 adults, lots of bikes, and his was locked up in the back. Not a bolt lock, not a U-lock, but a good strong lock. And once I walked over to the bike rack, I realized that it was actually cut by bolt cutters, like it was cut right through. A few weeks later, my daughter was actually playing with, it looked like a stick that she'd made into something like a cane, but the closer we looked at it, we could tell that it was something like a makeshift, either a weapon or makeshift, like something to smash windows with or something. In hindsight, it looks like they probably climbed over our fence, or, they dropped some things along the way.
Aiken added that owners have to make sure bike serial numbers are logged and registered. She says thefts have to be reported promptly, as most bikes are chopped for parts within hours of being stolen. 2 people were killed near Cardston following a fatal head-on collision. RCMP say the accident occurred last Wednesday, just before midnight on Highway 5 northeast of the town. Police say a southbound vehicle left its lane and traveled in the northbound lane when it collided with the other vehicle. Both drivers were pronounced dead at the scene, and investigation into the accident is ongoing. Many in our city have shown their concern over the public safety surrounding the supervised safe consumption site. A Facebook group organized a protest in front of Arches on Saturday, and BCN's Naveen Day was there.
Not my Lethbridge! Not my Lethbridge!
Crowds gathered outside a downtown business to voice their concerns over Arches, the supervised safe consumption and injection site which sits only meters away. They feel the site is causing the community to fall apart.
And at the center of the issue is Doug Hamilton, whose store shares an alley with the site. He stirred up controversy when he began to live stream his outdoor security camera footage to his YouTube channel, which shows images of homeless people and addicts defecating, littering, and trespassing. The Facebook group Lethbridge Needle Crisis Support Group organized the Saturday afternoon rally to show their support for Hamilton's and other businesses that are impacted.
We're here to support him. He's been here for over 70 years. He has a right to be here, and he has a right to have a safe property without having people doing drugs on it, peeing on it, pooping on it, having sex out front. He's had thousands of dollars worth of damages done to his building, and that's not okay.
Angus says businesses in the area were not properly informed and were under the impression that the site would provide a needle exchange program. Director of Programs for Arches, Megan Williamson, says exchanging needles is not effective.
It's not a recognized best practice. It's been proven to not be effective in reducing transmission rates of HIV and hepatitis C. To counter that, we've put in a lot of mitigation strategies, and over the last year we've increased our return rates by 83% and we've decreased distribution by 70%.
Hamilton and Arches have agreed to meet and discuss their concerns with each other. In the meantime, troubled citizens continue to do what it takes to protect their children.
We've had several kids, young kids, one as young as 2 years old, be pricked by somebody's used needle.
The first step is to keep people alive and We know what it is when we don't keep people alive, you know. I say dead people don't recover. Danny will never recover.
For Bridge City News, I'm Naveen Day.
Lethbridge Mayor Chris Spearman responded today to the protests which took place over the weekend. Spearman says the city needs a building similar to Arches.
The challenge we have is sorting out people's perceptions from the reality. They are concerned about having a supervised consumption site in the city of Lethbridge, and it's only one of the services that we definitely need. So we need long-term treatment, we need supportive housing, we need an intox center, we need a detox center. We've been asking for those services for years. The complexities that have now happened in our city is because we don't have the services that this city needs. So when we do receive those services, they will have to have a location.
Police with the Blood Tribe are asking for our help locating a missing teenager. 15-year-old Desiree across the mountain went missing July 7th at the Blood Tribe Youth Ranch in Standoff. She's described as 5 foot 10 inches tall with a medium build, black hair and brown eyes. She was last seen wearing a black hoodie with a white trim, black jeans and no shoes. It's believed that she may be avoiding police contact. If you've seen across the mountain, please call Crime Stoppers right away at 1-800-222-8477. Construction projects continue around the city of Lethbridge, making it a little bit of a challenge to get around, especially in the downtown core. 5th and 8th Avenue South were closed earlier today. Traffic control and pedestrian enhancements will be made in front of the new Regional Park and Ride Transit Terminal. Officials with the city of Lethbridge say to always give yourself extra time when you hear of ongoing construction projects. Alberta's Writing on Stone Provincial Park has become our province's 6th World Heritage Site and the 20th in Canada. The United Nations made the designation at its annual meeting yesterday in Azerbaijan. It follows more than 10 years of advocacy from Indigenous groups and the provincial government. The site contains thousands of rock carvings and paintings, including some that chronicle historical events such as battles and Indigenous peoples' first contact with Europeans. With school out for the summer, there are lots of ways to keep busy who want to do something a little bit different. So how about a camp where you can learn how to cook? Lethbridge College offers a culinary camp.
We're teaching them basic skills, so today they're doing soups and sauces. Tomorrow is meat cutting and meat cooking, and Wednesday and Thursday they're in the bake shop doing desserts. And every day they take something home for supper for their families, and then every day we also make something for Friday for lunch.
At this camp I learned a lot of cutting skills and how to cut vegetables properly, how to make soup and stuff. And I'm look forward to doing the bakery stuff in a couple days. We'll get to do that, which is going to be fun. We get to make dessert and stuff, and I love taking it home and eating it for dinner.
I'm learning how to cook meats and how to cook the vegetables and cut up the vegetables. And my favorite part is spending time with friends and learning all the things.
For more information about the culinary camp at Lethbridge College, visit their website, lethbridgecollege.ca. The controversial pro-life film Unplanned is opening in theaters this Friday. Abortion has been a hot-button topic in Canada and across the United States lately. Ryan Stockert, producer of The Missing Project, a documentary on abortion, says millions of Canadians are missing because of abortion.
There's an estimated 3 to 4 million people missing in Canada, which is, like the population of Toronto, like a whole major city is missing because of abortion.
Catch the full interview with Ryan Stockert, producer of the documentary Missing Project, coming up in the second half of our show. Many Canadians had problems with Rogers Wireless last night, and the telecommunications company says there's no word on when it will be able to fix its service. The company posted a message to its website reporting problems of dropped calls, also making or receiving calls on mobile phones or wireless home phones. Rogers said customers across the country had been affected. The company says some of its customers may have issues calling customers on other networks and was working to resolve the issue. The premiers of Saskatchewan, Ontario, New Brunswick, and the Northwest Territories were at the Calgary Stampede today, meeting with Alberta Premier Jason Kenney. Kenney says the leaders were discussing how they can be closer partners in prosperity, noting that they share goals such as building pipelines and free trade within Canada. After the meeting, the premiers watched the Stampede Rodeo before traveling to Saskatoon for the Council of Federation meeting, which begins tomorrow. Federal Tory leader Andrew Scheer says he's not taking it for granted that shutting the Liberals out of Calgary will be a cakewalk in this fall's federal election. Scheer has been making the rounds at the Calgary Stampede circuit, flipping flapjacks in the only 2 Calgary ridings the Conservatives lost in the 2015 election.
Honestly, the message is that we don't take anything for granted, that we know that every election we have to regain the trust of voters here. We have to send a message of optimism and hope. I know that Alberta is always looking forward, always holding its head held high, even when things get tough. The fact that the federal government has not been there to support Alberta, but not just that, but to kick it while it's down, that's been very tough for people here. But this is a turning point in our country's history, a turning point in the history of this province, and my message here today is let's get this thing done. It's just a couple more months to go, and then we can bring real change to Canada that gets people back to work.
A parade of politicians make their way to Calgary each year during the city's famous 10-day celebration of cowboy culture. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's office has said the Prime Minister will also stop by the stampede sometime this week. Wildfires have caused another evacuation, this one in Manitoba near Little Grand Rapids First Nations. Up to 200 people have been forced from their homes and are now seeking shelter in Winnipeg because of wildfire smoke. The residents include seniors, babies, and those with chronic respiratory problems. Over the weekend, the Manitoba government said smoke and ash was blowing into the province from fires in northwest Ontario. Close to 2,000 residents of the flying communities were also out of their homes for more than a month last year when a fire burned 320 square kilometers of forest in the area. California's governor says U.S. President Donald Trump has committed to help the state recovering from recent earthquakes. Gavin Newsom says California must be prepared for the next quake of magnitude even greater than the one which occurred on July 1st.
Community here is going to, I think, rightfully expect that the state of California has their back, that the federal government has their back. There's no doubt in my mind, after talking with the president, he's committed in the long haul, in the long run, to help support the rebuilding efforts. We are as a state as well. And so I'm here in that spirit of gratitude, spirit of respect for the leadership assembled behind me, to the first responders, many of them that are getting their first hot meal. Many of them haven't seen their kids. We all have an opportunity now to get more prepared, to be more vigilant, to look at our building codes, look at our home hardening, to look at that alert system, and I'm happy to answer any questions about what the state will be doing and has been doing. We all, I think, have a unique role and responsibility.
At least 5 people have been injured during the opening of the bull run of this year's San Fermin Festival in the northern Spanish city of Pamplona yesterday. Health officials say 2 of the injured were gored by bulls. The 6 bulls ran together in a pack for almost the entire 850-meter course to the city's bull ring. The 9-day fiesta, where the bulls are run in the morning and killed in the afternoon, draws around 1 million visitors each and every year. Closer to home, hundreds of fans lined up outside of Saskatchewan's legislature building for a chance to grab a photo of the Stanley Cup. Regina's Tyler Bozek and Wilcox' Jaden Schwartz brought the NHL's most prized trophy home. The Blues won the championship for the first time last month against the Boston Bruins. Saskatoon's Braden Shen was also part of the Stanley Cup winning squad. You know, there were 19 Canadians on the Blues roster. Congrats again. We had a thunderstorm watch earlier today. More rain is in the forecast tonight. But for how long? Complete weather details are coming up. Many parts of southwestern Alberta had a severe thunderstorm watch today. Tonight, a good chance of rain again with a low near 9. Tomorrow, more showers off and on with a high near 25. The clouds should clear out on Wednesday with a high expected near 27. Thursday, mainly sunny with a daytime high near 25. Friday, sunshine again with a high near 26. A great weekend is shaping up. Sunshine at 27 on Saturday, mainly clear and 25 degrees on Sunday. Looking at the almanac, the average high for this time of year is 25 and an average low of 10. The highest temperature on the state was recorded in 2001 at 33 degrees, and the record low was 4 in 1971. Sunrise was at 5:33, sunset at 9:40. Looking at tomorrow's national forecast now, it should be mainly cloudy and 22 for Victoria. Expect a mixture of sun and cloud and 23 in Vancouver. Light showers and 21 for Calgary. Overcast and 17 for Edmonton on Tuesday. A risk of thunder showers and 21 is on tap for Regina. Mainly cloudy and 22 for Saskatoon tomorrow. Showers and 22 as well for Winnipeg. Lots of humidity and a high near 30 degrees for Toronto. Mainly sunny and 31 for both Ottawa and Montreal. In the Maritimes, Fredericton will be sunny and 27. Just a few clouds at 28 is expected in Halifax tomorrow. Charlottetown will have a mixture of sun and cloud and a high near 24. And in St. John's, it'll be mainly sunny and a high near 21 tomorrow. Federal Tory leader Andrew Scheer is urging Prime Minister Justin Trudeau to step inspections up on all products from China and to consider slapping tariffs on Chinese imports. China's increased inspections that have led to the obstruction of key Canadian agricultural imports, including pork, beef, and canola. Scheer pressed Trudeau on taking a harder line with China, which is Canada's second biggest trading partner. Saudi budget carrier Flyadeal says it is ordering 30 new Airbus planes. The new agreement will replace the $6 billion deal it had with Boeing for its troubled 737 MAX jets, which are grounded around the world after 2 crashes. It comes as Boeing faces dozens of lawsuits over the crashes that killed 346 people. Germany's Deutsche Bank says it is going back to its roots with a radical restructuring plan. Investors gave a cautious response today, with shares in Germany's biggest bank declining after initially making modest gains. Deutsche Bank's new restructuring plan is expected to result in 18,000 job cuts by the year 2022. When it comes to finances and budgeting, it is important to remember that a budget can be helpful and should never be looked at as a hindrance. So says Michael Bell, president of Managing God's Money.
Many people see a budget as a straitjacket, as something confining them. But the budget is a tool. We control the budget. People say, my budget is $5, and no, you know what? My goal to achieve this item is $5. But if the goal changes and I can find some funds, I'll change it to $7. Or I change the goal. A budget is dynamic.
Watch the full interview with Michael Bell with BCN's Paul Arthur discussing how to properly manage your money. That's coming up after business news. Now, here's a look at today's markets. Recapping one of our top stories this hour, the Lethbridge Chief of Police, Rob Davis, is resigning to take on a new position as Police Chief in Brantford, Ontario. Davis has served as Police Chief in Lethbridge since January 5th of 2015. Davis's last day on the job will be September 30th. The movie Unplanned will be hitting theaters this Friday. Before then, a documentary on the abortion issue called Missing Project came out. BCN's Paul Arthur talks to the producer of the film next. But first, here's a look at what's happening in and around your community.
Here's your Bridge City News community calendar. The Willow Creek Gospel Music Jamboree is taking place July 26th to the 28th in Granham, Alberta. Come out and enjoy live gospel music by the Liberty Quartet, Rosette, Prairie George, the Fort Macleod Alliance Worship Group, and more. Plus, Daryl Jans will make a return as MC. For more information, visit gospelmusicjamboree.com. Looking for a fun summer activity for your kids? Roar, Life is Wild, God is Good Vacation Bible School is taking place July 29th to August 2nd from 9 a.m. to noon at the Lutheran Church of the Good Shepherd in Lethbridge for ages 4 to 11 at no cost. To register and for more details, go to LutheranChurchOfTheGoodShepherd.com or call 403-328-3445. And that's your Bridge City News community calendar.
Abortion, once unthinkable in Canadian society, today it has become commonplace and accepted practice. It has been 50 years since the legalization of abortion. What impact has it had on our nation? I'm joined by Ryan Stockert, producer of The Missing Project. Good to have you with us, Ryan. Tell me, what inspired you to make a documentary on abortion? After all, many of our politicians say that this is an issue that has already been settled here in Canada.
Yeah, well, firstly, Paul, it's not settled. It's just not popular, but we'll get to that, I'm sure, later on in the interview. Last year in 2018, a group of pro-life and Christian leaders here in Canada approached me, and they had come up with an idea to mark the 50th anniversary of legalized abortion in Canada, which was this year, 2019, and they came up with a massive creative project called the Missing Project. And the concept was kind of twofold. On one side, we were going to produce 50 testimonies from average, ordinary Canadians across the country who've been impacted by abortion in some way. And it's not just the post-abortive woman, but it's family members, the father who didn't have to say or didn't have a say in it, the child who survived the abortion, the aunt, the grandmother, just showing the wide range of effect this issue has on Canadians. And we did 50, symbolically one for every year of legalized abortion in Canada. The second part of the project is a feature-length documentary called The Missing Project, where we look at the past 50 years and explore this issue, how we ended up in the position that we are in Canada with no law, and just it's kind of the Wild West right now with what's acceptable in clinics and in hospitals and stuff. So we examine the past 50 years of the pro-life movement and this issue.
Okay. Tell me what's behind the actual name, The Missing Project. So what's missing?
Yeah, I loved the concept right away when they approached me with it. First of all, I think exploring this topic from what is missing and not just what has happened, but what is gone from our country. I mean, first of all, we have a missing law. Canada is one of the only nations in the world with, without a law on abortion, and many Canadians don't know. I didn't even know that when they approached me to do this project, and I'll talk about that in a moment as well. But there's missing people, there's missing information, there's missing media viewpoints, there's missing medical facts. There's so much missing in this debate. What was good about me taking on this project is I'm a pretty typical Canadian where, I might be theologically or philosophically on board with the pro-life message, but I didn't know anything about the movement, and I didn't really even understand the effects of abortion on women and on families in this country. And so when I approached this, I always thought of the average ordinary Canadian who's not in the storm of pro-life activism, but needs to know what actually is missing and what's happened in this country.
Yeah, so thus the Missing Project. So, I mean, you went across the country then with your camera and interviewed, like you mentioned, not just women, but also others who have been affected by abortion. And they're sharing their personal stories. And after 50 years of legal abortion here in Canada, what impact has it had on our nation? Now, you mentioned it's got, we're missing a number of things, and critically, I guess, human beings, and I'm not sure exactly what the number is, but it's in the millions of people that we're missing, right?
Yeah, that's right. And, I think the missing people aspect is the most impactful. There's an estimated 3 to 4 million people missing in Canada, which is, like the population of Toronto, like a whole major city is missing because of abortion. The low birth rate impacts, the way we talk about and legislate immigration policy even. On the other end of the age scale, it impacts the elderly. We start talking about euthanasia, it becomes a viable option in people's minds because we can't afford the health care for the elderly, but there's a missing generation that would have been, investing financially into the health care to look after the elderly. And so, I mean, I guess that's the logical end. If you think we can do violence at the beginning of life to what is, seen as inconvenient, an unplanned pregnancy or whatever, I guess on the other end of life, when people become inconvenient as well, that, we can start talking about doing violence against them. So I think missing people is the biggest, I think the biggest issue. And when you talk to mothers about it, they still feel the impact of their missing child. So, I start off nationally, like, here's what's missing in people. But when you actually talk to the women who've been hurt by abortion, you can see that the impact of a missing child is still carries on.
Watching these interviews with women from across Canada, were there any overriding, common responses that came up over and over again?
Yeah, one theme that I kept hearing was about the healing process they went through. You know, all the women I talked to who had come through the trauma of abortion had only found true healing in Jesus. And I mean, maybe that's too general to say of everybody. Like you say, we can't, pigeonhole every person in, every situation. But so much of their healing came through a spiritual connection with God and, overcoming addictions that entered into their life after abortion, dealing with the trauma, suicidal thoughts, unforgiveness, and so much more. Also, many women felt abortion was their only option. And that's sad, that they think, okay, well, it was just the solution. Something, I was scared, I didn't know what to do. And the abortion clinic was nearby enough that was the option. And one of the other interviews that had a huge impact on me was a woman named Christine up in Ottawa, who's part of an organization called Pro-Life Humanists, and she actually talked about the early feminists who were against abortion. The early feminist movement was against abortion because their viewpoint was when abortion becomes the option for women, it's a sign that society has abandoned women. Not that they're empowering them to do what they want with their bodies, but it's a sign that women have been abandoned and their issues aren't being dealt with. So, that's why so many feel that's their only option because that's what they're told.
Yeah, rather than also promoting things like adoption as an option, right? That's maybe something our government and our society could look at doing. But this coming from non-religious people as well. Very interesting to hear that feedback there. Well, I'd like to take a minute or two here, Ryan, if we could, to just let our viewers watch a couple of short samples right from the Missing Project of how real people have been affected by abortion.
When I was 22 weeks, it was a 2-day procedure. They inserted the seaweed into me, and at that time the doctor told me, you probably won't be able to have kids because you've had 3 abortions. And I remember asking the doctor if he could tell what sex it was and if he could see the face. I didn't get any answers from anybody. They finished it up and sent me into the recovery room where I recovered for an hour. And I pretty much buried it and forgot about it until I had my babies with my husband. And it was then that I saw them on ultrasound and felt them moving and kicking. And it was then that I knew that it wasn't just tissue.
Like I said, I had tried everything I could to convince her to keep this child, and I even talked to a lawyer, and the lawyer informed me that in Canada, the man has absolutely no right at all to stop the abortion, to care for his own child. And I had to ask her, I said, did you go through with it? And she just simply said, yes, it's done. And I'm telling you, it hit me like a freight train. I just felt the immediate impact of that loss of my child's life is what it was. People don't feel that way, they don't react that way if someone has their tonsils removed or a tooth pulled or some benign operation. It was devastating. I was devastated. I couldn't do anything for 3 days. I was just in a state of absolute grief.
Yeah, those are powerful testimonies. Again, people sharing their personal stories, Ryan, from the Missing Project. And I think many Canadians have strong opinions on abortion, but I do wonder how many people have actually talked to somebody like this who's gone through it, right? And how many people would actually have any knowledge as to what takes place in an actual abortion procedure? Probably not that many. The term fetus sounds more benign than using the term unborn baby, for sure. Especially when one realizes that there is a beating heart involved, little toes and fingers and so on, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, that's part of what's missing is missing information. Many women go in just thinking it's, a glob of cells or just a bit of tissue. They're told that the procedure is just going to be like a heavy menstrual cycle and then it's done. And they're not told about the aftermath. and the effects afterwards, and they're not told about the development of that fetus, of that unborn child, of that living being in them. And that's one of the topics we explored is missing information and how it is out there.
Yeah, the potential impact negatively on the health of a woman. It is weird that when you look at our medical standards across the country, if there's any risk to a person going through a medical procedure that is normally outlined in great detail, so you know what your options are. You can go through this or you can't because it may affect you, it may not, but you know what, here's the possibilities, here's the risks. That doesn't seem to happen from the people you've interviewed here when they go in for an abortion. Like, why is this medical procedure where less information is somehow good for you now? That does make me just pause and think. Okay, we have to change something here for the benefit of women, right? And now there's another part of this here too, with the whole Missing Project documentary. I want to just touch on, because I think often what comes to mind is people think, well, okay, now you're probably a bunch of religious nuts. And, you're trying to put guilt and condemnation onto anyone who has been in a tough situation. They were young, maybe confused, in a tough, condition, financially and so forth, relationally. And, well, guys, do you understand where these people are coming from? How can you be so hard on them? But my understanding is that you don't want to start an argument here. You don't want to condemn people. You're trying to start a thoughtful conversation on this topic, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. That's the great thing about documentaries and testimonies. It's about people seeing maybe a different side of an issue, a side that they might not see in their Facebook feed. The way the algorithms work in social media and stuff, you don't always get both sides, and that goes no matter what side of the issue you're on. So that was, part of my mandate was, I wanted to get out this information not from me, not from my opinions. I don't put my opinion in. I have a bias to start off with, of course, with my pro-life viewpoints, but, I let the people who've gone through it and who minister to these women and families, I let them talk about it, because they're credible. It's firsthand experience. And personally, I think there's been a huge injustice in this country because people do not have all the facts. The pro-life movement has worked so hard to find out the truth behind abortion, and it's not being told to women. That's a huge injustice to women and families. Women and families are learning the hard way about the effects of abortion firsthand, and it's horrible. To go through something to learn it that way is, now the damage is done. Now you have to deal with the aftermath, and for many, it haunts them the rest of their life.
Yeah, somehow we have to get a conversation going that is meaningful without, anger being hurled at one another, where there's no meaningful conversation. Somehow it's okay to disagree. Let's just talk this over without name calling and put downs and so forth. Nothing gets accomplished through that. Now, it's interesting that a majority of Canadians actually believe that there should be some restrictions on abortion. Again, as you pointed out earlier, not that many people realize that there's no law in Canada. You can have an abortion the day before your, or the day of your due date. If you can find a doctor to do it, it's legal in Canada. And the vast majority of people cringe at that thought. There's something wrong with that. So why is it that people in Canada want some restrictions on abortion, gestationally speaking? There's a reason, right?
Yeah, I think, it is ingrained in us to protect. I think that's built in us to protect the weak and the most vulnerable in our world, right? And so, most Canadians, even, on the pro-choice or pro-abortion side, when they find out that, you can have an abortion, like you say, up until the day of, or, maybe they haven't heard that, 300 to 400 babies, I believe, a year are actually survive abortion and are born alive and are left to die, right? Like that's shocking, and people understand that. And
yeah, there's something wrong with that, and of course there's gender selective abortions that take place in Canada with certain cultures, for example, who want a boy, value that more than a girl. Again, the vast majority of Canadians cringe at that, as they should. And so we need to take steps to having a conversation on how can we, at the very least, reduce the number of abortions, right? Now, where can people purchase a copy of the Missing Project film?
Right now, we have it for a limited time online. You can go to missing-project.ca, missing-project.ca, and get an online copy of it. Like I say, a limited time. Later on in the summer, we're going to begin organizing a national tour, screening the film with different organizations across the country. We're going to have a big Canada map online with little pinpoints all across the country where people can, attend a local screening and have DVD sales at those screenings as well. So.
Well, that's excellent. And we're talking about getting a conversation going on. How can people share this on their social media channels?
Yeah, we have a YouTube channel and a Facebook channel. We've released the 50 testimonies, which are very powerful. You can go through each one of those, and they're going to be a wonderful tool for you to use to maybe counsel a friend or family member, or just maybe show one of your pro-abortion friends the reality of what goes on in an abortion. So our Facebook page, if you search for Missing Project 2019, the Missing Project 2019, you should be able to find it. And on YouTube, same thing, the Missing Project. We have a channel with all 50 on there.
Excellent. And I also understand that this film and this social media campaign you're talking about to get people joining the conversation is funded entirely by donations. So finally, how can people chip into this?
Yeah, we'd really appreciate that to help us cover the rest of our budget. It's missing-project.ca again. There's a link to buy the film and also a link to donate, and you will get a charitable tax receipt with that as well.
Awesome. Ryan, thank you so much for sharing this with us here today.
Thanks for the opportunity. It's been great.
Ryan Stockard, producer of The Missing Project, and again, missing-project.ca. Most of the world's governments are now functioning with a high level of debt, and most Canadian households are doing the very same. Why can't we seem to stick to a reasonable budget? We're going to get some help with this here today with Michael Bell, president of Managing God's Money. He's also an adjunct professor of business administration at Briarcrest College and author of Business Simplified, which is available at managinggodsmoney.com. Michael, so good to have you on with us again. Tell me, why do people have trouble sticking to a budget?
Well, first of all, I'm happy to be here with you, Paul. And the simple answer is because, with all due respect, most people don't understand what a budget is. They do what is intuitive, but it's actually not right. They focus on the money. They focus on the money. And if you think about it, it's like saying the hockey score was 5-2. Let's just look at the hockey score. Maybe it should be 3-2. That's what you do. What you do when you say the hockey score was 5-2 and I'm the coach, I go back and I look at my players, I look at my formation, I look at everything. What we should do, we should say, what are money drivers? I bought clothes, a shirt, a pants, 6 of this. I bought a car, as opposed to say, oh, my budget was $5 and I spent $4. That's the score. In a nutshell, that it is. You see, the thing is, a budget is a GPS to get you from here to there, period. And if we understand that the GPS, the car doesn't take you, you drive the car. That's the budget.
So I'm blaming the budget when I should be looking in the mirror at myself, right? Yeah, you say that. We should ask some good questions. What did I buy? And of course, if we're wondering, how come there's so much money left at the end of the month? We need to find out where the leak is, right? And I think it's true. I know I've talked to many people who are simply not aware of where their money is going. So, I mean, that's step one, I guess, is to find out where the money's going, right?
Yeah, well, step one actually is to understand your spending pattern, which effectively is where the money goes. But for example, the typical Canadian household spends 50% of their after-tax income on food, clothing, transportation, and shelter. 50%. If you add another 20%, that would take you to taxes. So 70% generally, food, clothing, transportation, taxes, and shelter. But the challenge is different. The high level income people might be paying 27% tax, and at the bottom, they're paying 1%. But that's the profile. We don't really want to look at the profile, but we really want to understand what is it I'm spending on and manage the driver, what I'm spending on. You see, what society has done, society has taught us to look at money, and that's the problem. So society says, look at a car payment of $150 a month. Look at the electricity at $123. So we look at all of these as opposed to say, I control electricity consumption. I actually can control my car mileage, but the payment I don't control, because once I agree to it, it goes out and out. So the decision should be A, what type of transport do I need? As opposed to, gee, I can spend $150 a month. What type of transport that fits within my lifestyle? That's what we should be doing. And we don't do that.
We don't ask the right question. You're saying, why am I spending this? You know, should I be spending this much and so forth, right? Yeah, I know we talk about the envelope system sometimes, and sometimes I wonder if our governments should use an envelope system. They might be functioning better. You know, big envelopes, I guess. But is that helpful along with the right questions to use something, you know, where we're only going to spend this much money because we've now assessed how much we're spending and what we're spending and why we're spending it. That sort of thing, putting it into an envelope sort of category?
The envelope system is a great training wheel, but we've got to get beyond the envelope system because, again, the envelope system focuses on money. Paul, as I said, it's counterintuitive. The issue is we must never look at the money. We must look at the lifestyle. It's the lifestyle that creates spending. What type of lifestyle can I afford? And one of the things I teach is that effectively there are 3 different life stages. So you just come out of college, your lifestyle is going to reflect a sacrificial type of living and therefore a sacrificial type of budget. So you can't afford a Lamborghini, not now, maybe later on. And then you go from the sacrificial to the supplemental. So you can add some additional things. And then you go to the sustaining where you can do the vacations and the yachts and whatever it is. But fundamentally, we've got to look at lifestyle. What does that mean? It means that we should sit down and we should say, what is affordable? Affordable does not mean I can pay next month's rent and next month's car payment. Affordable means I can develop some goals and plans and have funds to support those goals and plans. So a budget, what is a budget? A budget is your best estimate today to achieve goals in a future. Goals. And every goal must have a plan. The goal is the destination, the GPS, and every goal must have a plan. There are 3 different routes to get from here to there. Which route do I take? And as we go along, you know, the GPS is going to say, oh, gee, you've arrived. I said, no, I haven't arrived. Okay, so then you've got to adjust your route and then proceed. That's budgeting. I call it the peace budgeting system. You have a goal and then P, you have a plan. Then you estimate the cost of the plan. Then you act, you actually do it. Then you compare where you are with where you ought to be. And then E, you execute changes. It's circular. You keep going.
Yeah, you're adjusting that GPS, like you say, recalculating.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this ties in, I think, with another an acronym that you have. It's an equation, actually, A plus B equals C, and that is the attitude leads to behavior, resulting in consequences. So somehow our whole outlook, our attitude needs to change, right?
Yes, it all comes back to the attitude. For instance, the attitude is what we believe. Many people see a budget as a straitjacket, as something confining them. But the budget is a tool. We control the budget. People say, my budget is $5. And no, you know what? My goal to achieve this item is $5. But if the goal changes and I can find some funds, I'll change it to 7. Or I change the goal. A budget is dynamic. And we don't see the budget as dynamic. The other thing is people think that the budget is only done either when you're in debt or you're living paycheck to paycheck or there is a problem. But it's a lifestyle. You know, my wife and I, we've been budgeting we've been married almost 50 years. We've been budgeting for 47 or so of those years. Because the earlier years, we were just running ahead. And even though I'm an accountant, I just thought I knew it. But I didn't, because I had to learn my spending pattern. So the key is the budget is a tool. The budget is the score. The numbers is the score. We have to go behind the score to understand what we do to generate the score, write a game plan, ensure we have the appropriate positions in this game plan to achieve the goals that we want to achieve. And
Yeah.
that's
Well,
it.
you just mentioned that the budget is not a straitjacket, rather a freeing tool. You actually have a list, 7 things a budget is not, and that was the number 1 thing there, a straitjacket. That's an interesting list. If you have time, you want to go through that here a little bit. I think number 2 was what a budget is not about yesterday, but rather about tomorrow.
Yes, and why that is so important, people say, well, I spent, especially governments, we spent $1 billion last year, we need to spend $1.010 billion. And I'm thinking, no, you've got to look at your goals and maybe you should reduce it. And one of the things, I mean, the governments are master wasters of money. I mean, sorry, I won't go there, but they waste a lot of money because they focus on money. The third one is the budget is not about the numbers or the figures. The budget is about goals and plans. So today, you're a university student and you want to do your master's. It's not, I need so much money. It's, okay, what does the master's entail? The other thing we forget is that the budget, even though it seems to be money, it's about time as well. Because if I do this, I can't do something else. So the budget is not about figures. The budget is about your goals and also about the time and talents that you have. The other thing that people say, oh, I'll just look at the budget and maybe I'll put 20% for this. And your budget isn't about percentages. Your budget isn't about what your percent is. You've got to look at you. For example, if one were to look at my budget for eating out, it's 0. I don't eat.
That's why you're so slim.
And my daughter would say, yeah, but you had a heart attack.
That's another story.
That's another story. So the other thing, the budget is not done only when you're in debt, but it's a good lifestyle tool to help you. And here's the thing, Paul, when you're budgeting, you're looking ahead. And what the budget does, it helps you to see obstacles, help you to see challenges. And then today, in advance, you can plan to adjust to deal with those challenges. Maybe I defer this, maybe I take this, and so on. The other one is the budget does not and will never change your financial condition. The lifestyle choices change your financial conditions. It's not the budget. And the budget is not designed for that. The budget is not meant to constrain or confine. For instance, people would say to me, what's your budget for this? I say, I don't know. You know, they say you're going to buy this particular suit. What's your budget? I don't know. I need to see what type of suit I want. Do I want it to last long, et cetera, and then I can think about it. But I can't go in and say, well, the budget is $200. I don't know. But what we do is we do that first. And that's not the right approach to do it. And finally, the budget is not a free pass to spend. And that's what governments do. They'll say in February, oh, we have $10 zillion left over. Let's spend. And of course, being major league wasters of funds, they just waste funds. You know, they tax and they spend, and they tax and they spend. And that's what they do. But that's not what the budget is about. The budget is not to say if you have $5 to buy something and it costs you $3, that $2 is not available in the budget. It comes out because the budget wasn't about the money. The budget was about your ability to get that thing. And that's a concept that's hard to accept, and many people don't accept it, actually.
Right. Yeah. No, I think that's wisdom. And as you pointed out earlier, too, it's not just because you're in debt that you're budgeting. Wealthy people budget. They plan
Of
ahead.
course.
They've got some goals. We can learn something from this, right? We want to get to that place
Sure.
as well. So start now, even if we don't have a lot to work with, right? So on a practical note, should we have an emergency fund of some kind as well, generally speaking, for the average family in Canada?
Crucial. What I normally say is the word emergency doesn't mean that something is going to crop up unplanned. It's actually going to happen. You just don't know when. The car is going to break down. The fridge is going to break down. So what I say to people, don't think of it as an emergency fund, because it's going to happen. We just don't know when. So in my teaching, I have something called a capital fund, and it's actually on the website. And what the capital fund does is you sit down and you say, okay, the car has 5 years to go, or 4 years to go, or 3 years, and at replacement, it's going to be $5,000. So each year I should be putting $1,000 aside. So what I say, because it's not an emergency, I say plan for these, quote, emergencies, and have roughly, my experience is between 3 and 6 months equivalent of your salary in that emergency fund, not as money, but as representing the car breaking down, the tires, and so specific things.
The inevitabilities of life in the real world, right? So
Inevitably, yes.
Michael, what do you think? Again, many of us, I think, confuse needs with wants. Any advice on how to sort that out for our viewers today?
Yeah, my grandson, when he was 3, my wife said to him, "Dylan, I need a kiss." He says, "Grandma, you don't need a kiss. You want a kiss."
That's funny.
And I call that the Dylan principle, because the thing is, if we look at what's today, one of the things I do from time to time, I walk around in shopping centers and I say, what do we need here for life, to sustain life, for health, for something that I must have to function, otherwise I'm going to get ill. And I say, nothing. I also sit down and analyze some of my people that I counsel, and I say to them, let's go over all of these things that got you into debt. Nothing was needed. So my suggestion is, when we're thinking about needs, we should really start to, what is something that's legally, morally, ethically, and for health that's required? That's a need.
Right. It breaks it down a lot.
Yeah. And we live in the most amazing country in the world. It's not like in the States where you have the health issues. And there are some real serious constraints. No, and if I could just quickly say, with my heart attack, I'm telling you, I found the health system, which sometimes I'm pretty negative about, it basically cost me nothing. And I got outstanding care, really outstanding care. So in Canada, I'm saying we don't need, the other challenge, Paul, is people think they have to own a house. Owning a house is a privilege. And especially today, most young people are better off not owning a house, because you're going to end up with the cost of owning and also the cost as if you were renting. Why? Because you're not going to have any equity in the home and you're paying this mortgage, and the market eventually is going to go down. And we need to say it's fine to rent. It really is fine. I call it the 11th commandment. Thou shalt rent. Thou shalt rent if thou wantest.
Boy, we're up against the clock here, but that's a whole other conversation we might have one day on this as well. You know, because again, there's taxes, and of course, like you say, depending on which market you're in, it could be a real challenge to own a house. But boy, thank you so much, Michael. As always, a pleasure to have you on, and I really appreciate your outlook and wisdom on life.
Thank you for having me, and I always appreciate you talking about these issues that are so important to Canadians.
They are. Michael Bell, president of Managing God's Money, managinggodsmoney.com. And on behalf of all of us at Bridge City News, thank you so much for watching today.